Hello, research methods, and welcome to your walkthrough for SPSS Lab assignment number 9, ANOVA. ANOVA stands for Analysis of Variance, and it is a way to determine if the mean values of 3 or more groups are statistically different. So when we looked last week at the t-test, or the difference between means test, that only allows us to compare 2 different means. In order to compare more than that, we need to use analysis of variance. So for this lab assignment, we are going to compare parking lots, playgrounds, and parks and green spaces. The first thing we need to do is find out what SPSS calls these various site types. So we go to site type, values column, click in that cell, click on the ellipses, and just make note that parking lots are 3, playgrounds are 4, and parks and green spaces are 5. We're not changing anything, so we'll go ahead and cancel. Now, the first thing I want you to do is just look at the mean value of trash litter in each of these categories on its own. So in order to do that, we want to use the select cases that we used several weeks ago. So where that was under data. I'll go to data, all the way at the bottom, select cases. We want to select if condition is satisfied, and then say if. Select site type and move it over to this top box here and say site type equals 3. For parking lots. I'm going to start with parking lots and say continue and say OK. Now I always like to check this, so I'm going to go over to data view and see that a bunch of things are crossed off over here, so it means we've successfully filtered out some things. But let's scroll down to site type 3 and see if that is what we've successfully isolated. And there we go. Site type 3, they are not crossed off. Perfect. So now I just want to run the mean. And we did that by going to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies. And right-click over here and say Display Variable Names. Scroll down until we find Trash Litter. There it is, Trash Litter. Move it over. Click on the Statistics button and select just the mean. Say Continue. And be sure to uncheck the Display Frequency Tables box so that you don't get that long table. And say OK. There's the mean amount of trash litter found in parking lots, was 16.55. Now we want to find out the mean amount of trash litter at playgrounds. So first we need to change our filter. So go to Data, select Cases, go back in that If button, and change the 3 to a 4 for playgrounds. Say Continue and say OK. Now I want to go back to my data set and see now 3s are crossed off, but let's scroll down a little bit more to see if we got our 4s opened up. There's 4s for site type, and they are not crossed off. Perfect. So now let's run the mean again. Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies. Everything is how we left it, so we can just say OK. So we know we've isolated different cases because our mean is different. So the mean amount of trash litter that was recorded at playgrounds was 13.42. And finally, let's look at parks and green spaces. I'm going back to data, down to select cases, go back in that if button, and change the 4 to a 5. And say Continue, and say OK. And run the mean again. Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies. Everything is as we left it, so say OK. And 1605 is the mean amount of trash litter that was found at parks and green spaces. So the first question I want you to answer for this lab assignment is, do you think these numbers are statistically significantly different? So now we can go ahead and run our ANOVA, and that will tell us if these numbers are in fact statistically significantly different. But first, do not forget to turn off your filter. So we want to look at all of the variables for trash litter. So go back to data, down to select cases, and then you can just say reset, this button on the bottom, reset, and that clears out your if condition is satisfied, and then say okay. And always, just to double check, I'm going to go back to my data set. Nothing's crossed out, but let's scroll up just to make sure really nothing is crossed out. Just keeping an eye on that left-hand side there. Nothing is crossed out, nothing is crossed out, going a little faster. Perfect. So now we can run an ANOVA by going to Analyze, Compare Means and Proportions, One-Way ANOVA. Right-click in this box on the left-hand side. And for the dependent list, we want to scroll down until we find trash litter. There it is. Move that over to the dependent list. And for the factor, I created a special variable all the way at the bottom, ANOVA site type 2. So move this ANOVA site type 2 over to the factor. Again, uncheck this box that says estimate effect size. Make sure that box is unchecked or it's going to look, your output's going to look different. So your screen should look like this. And then say okay. So here we get our ANOVA output. And as always, we're looking for this sig number or the p-value. And in this case, it is 0.060. And again, we want this number, if things are statistically significantly different, this number needs to be less than 0.05. So because it's not, that means that even though they look a little bit different, these are statistically considered the same. So that is the second question I want you to answer in the D2L Dropbox. And as always, don't forget to save this output. I'm going to say File, Save As, save it somewhere where you will remember it, and then go into D2L while you're still in the virtual lab to upload that file to the D2L Dropbox.